So in this video, I'm going to show you how Trapped in the Darkflame Void, a Sticknia collaborative game, is played. So first of all, what you'll have to do is select the characters who are being played. I'm going to pretend I'm playing a two-player game here and select Shadow and Warmonger. And the first thing you'll do is you'll put the clear cube onto the 0 mark of the shard tracker on each card. So that just shows these characters have 0 shards. The goal of the game is to collect collaboratively a certain number of shards and then make it to a portal, activate the portal, and get out before you are overwhelmed by enemies or the Darkflame Void just fades away altogether, taking you into chaos and oblivion. We'll put our character trackers, which in the regular game these will be standees and not just little cards, but in Tabletopia we don't have that option. I'll put those on the starting card, which is the 2 portal. And you always start with the 2 portal at the center of the setup that you're using. So one of the setups that we're using, we're going to use config 1 here, which is just a basic hexagonal shaped grid of hexagonal shaped tiles. So, and that's by far, I think, the easiest one to beat. You're also welcome to create your own configuration in any manner you choose. Some configurations are going to be more difficult. As tiles fade away, you may not be able to get across to other places, so the more grouped they are, in some cases it's easier to win that way. However, if you're using your own config, leave 5 tiles left in the tile deck, because those switch around and move, and you'll see that through gameplay here in just a minute. So we've got them set up here, we've got our characters. So now what I'm going to do is just do that configuration. So now that our board is set up, I'll explain a little bit about each tile type. I'm not going to go into too much detail because I want to just show you through gameplay how these different tiles are activated by the void or used by the players. So the first type is the one we're on, which is a portal. So the portal tile has a portal up against a wall on it, and it also has a little flame border around the edge to show that that's a portal. All the different tile types have a different border so that they're easily distinguished. The portal allows players to jump from this tile to any tile on the board, so that can be helpful. The next piece here, the next tile, is a trap tile, which has a little bomb around the edge. When those get activated on the void turn, they can wound players who are adjacent to them or on the tile itself, so that's no good. That's a bad tile. These tiles are Void Mage tiles, and the Void Mages, what they do is they fade tiles adjacent to them. So when they're activated on the Void Mage turn, they will randomly take a tile next to them and flip it. And if the tile is already flipped to black, it goes away. So that makes the game much harder once you've got tiles that are not available anymore. So this tile type is the Shard Oracles. So the Void Mages are trying to trap you, but the Shard Oracles are trying to give you a way to get out. They're going to give you shards that will allow you to escape the void. These tiles here with the little potion around the edge are heal tiles, and when you successfully use these, you get what is called a heal token. They're little white cubes, which means that you can use those cubes at any time to go from a wounded state back to a healthy state. Let me talk about that a little bit. So, for example, if an enemy hurts Warmonger here, he gets flipped over to his wounded state, his stats go down, and his ability goes away. So if I had a heal token, at any point I could flip him back over and continue to use his ability, and his stats are higher. And then we have the enemy tiles. The enemy tiles have a sword around the edge, and when activated on the void turn, they will start producing these black enemy cubes that follow our heroes around the Void trying to damage them. And we'll show how that works in gameplay as well. And those are the 6 tile types that make up the game. At this point, I'm going to just play through how this works. So player will get a turn, and then the Void gets a turn. So the things that you can do on the player turn is you can take 2 actions. So you can move 1 hex, move your character 1 hex. You can act on a current tile, or you can attempt to destroy an enemy cube, which is a strength test versus the difficulty. We're just going to play at a difficulty 1, so the strength test to destroy enemy cubes would just be a die +1 for the enemies. And we're going to talk about test here in a second as I take my first turn. So we're going to take Shadow, and Shadow's special is he gains a shard for each trap tile disarmed. So what we're going to do is we're going to start moving towards a trap tile. We can move to this one right next to Shadow, and that's one of our actions, move a hex. Then we're going to try and disarm a trap tile, which is a dexterity test versus the tile number. So to disarm a trap tile, characters on a trap tile may use an action to disarm it and put it at the top of the stack. You always put anything that you get rid of at the top of the stack and then replace it from a tile at the bottom of the stack. That way you don't know really what's coming. So to disarm a trap tile, you make a dexterity versus tile number test. So this is where I'm going to show you how to make a test. So the tile number where Shadow is sitting is a 5. So now let's look at making that test. Shadow's dexterity is 6, so it's a 6 versus a 5. So I roll the dice. The way this works is the white die is always for the players. The white die is for our heroes. And the black die is for the Void and all the things that go with the Void. So our dexterity is 6 plus 5, 11 points. The tile number was a 5, so it has an 8. And you have to meet or exceed the number to complete the test. So we were successful at this test, which means this tile, and let me move Shadow off of there. So that tile goes to the top of the stack, and then, since we're in Tabletopia here, I'm just going to shuffle and take a tile to replace it. Normally, you would just take the one off the bottom because you wouldn't be able to see what's on the bottom. So we'll put this heal tile in its place. So that was Shadow's 2 actions. By disarming a trap, we gain a shard because Shadow gets a shard for disarming traps. So we've earned 1 of the 7 shards we need to win the game. Right now we are playing difficulty 1. So health test versus enemy cubes are a die +1. Characters start with a heal token. Shards needed to win. We're a 2-player game, so we need 7. If your character is on a tile removed by Fade, you just go to an adjacent tile and become wounded. Now, at higher difficulty levels, if your character's on a tile that's removed by Fade, you die. And you can also give up a shard to turn a test failure into a success, excluding the oracles. You can't give up a shard to get a shard, so that wouldn't make any sense. Okay, so that was Shadow's turn. Now we're going to go to the Void turn. And this is the way the Void turn works. You'll roll the 2 dice and follow the Void turn chart here. So the results are white die, activate an enemy tile, 5, a 4 and a 5 is the highest numbered tile. So let's go back here. The highest numbered tile in play right now, as far as enemy tiles, would be this 4 down here. So it is activated. We put an enemy cube on it. If there was a character on this tile, that character would have to make a health test versus difficulty using the same white and black dice versus their health stat. So that was the Void's turn. I'll go over those steps real quick though. On a Void turn, the first thing you do is roll the health test versus enemy cubes. If there are enemy cubes on the same tile as a hero, those heroes have to make a health test versus enemy cubes. So as the players, you would decide how to divide those health tests. So if you had 2 characters on there and 3 enemy cubes, you might say, okay, well, one of the guys is going to make one test, and then another guy is going to make 2 of those tests. Then you roll the dice like we just did to see what happens, and then you move enemy cubes. So, since we just rolled for activating the enemy tile, we activated it, we put the thing up there. The last thing in the turn is to move enemy cubes. They always move towards the closest hero. And in the case that the heroes are equidistant, you can choose as the player. So both of these are 2 hexes away. So I'll just choose to move it there. And then it would be Warmonger's turn. And Warmonger makes his living by defeating enemies. So he would move 2 down here to this enemy tile. That takes both of his actions, and then it would be the Void's turn. Again, there were no enemy cubes on a hero's tile, so we don't have to worry about that. We will activate a trap tile, the lowest numbered trap tile. That would be this tile here. We activate it. If any characters were on this tile, they would automatically become wounded and flip their card. If any were on an adjacent tile, they would have to make a dexterity test. So they would have to make a dexterity test versus the tile number. In this case, it was a 2. So they would have to roll a white die plus their dexterity against a black die against that 2 to see if they were wounded or not. And again, to succeed on a test, all you have to do is get an equal number to whatever the Void rolls. At the end of that activation of this trap tile on the Void turn, we would then take our enemy and move it. Warmonger's here, Shadow's here. I think that Warmonger has a better chance of defeating that, so I'm going to move it towards Warmonger. Then it would be Shadow's turn again. And since Shadow's bread and butter is disarming traps, we'll move Shadow to this trap here. That's one action. Our second action will be to try and disarm the trap. So the black die plus 3 versus our dexterity plus the white die. Let's roll that. Again, success. We have an 11 to a 4. So we would get rid of this one and put our new tile in place. And then we earn another shard for Shadow. Then we go to the Void turn. So roll a health test versus enemy cubes. So Warmonger here has a health of 4. We're on difficulty 1. This is going to be easy. So the health test for that enemy cube that is on his square is only going to be a die plus 1. And after we roll, Warmonger has a health total of 6 here, and the Void rolled a 6 on the die, plus 1 is 7. Warmonger did not succeed that test and becomes wounded. So now Warmonger's stats are lower, and we don't have that piece. So since we're playing difficulty 1, we should have had a couple of these white heal tokens, one for each character. At this point, Warmonger could use one of those heal tokens. At any point during the game, you can use your heal tokens to flip from wounded state back to a regular state. If Warmonger were to be wounded and then take another wound, that means Warmonger is out of the game. And on our Void turn, we roll a 5 on the white die and a 6 on the black die. This is no good. It says fade a portal. A 6 is the high and low tiles. So we're going to actually end up fading 2 tiles. The lowest is this 2, so we fade that. The highest, I think, is this 5 here, so we fade that. So now we have 2 faded tiles. If they get faded again, they go away, not to be replaced, which makes it harder to get around the board. So that was the Void's turn. It would now be Warmonger's turn. So play would continue like this until either the characters had their 7 shards and made it back to a portal, or characters got wounded enough to be destroyed. So in a nutshell, that is how to play Trapped in the Darkflame Void. Comes with all the cards to tell you each type of tile. So on the player turn, this is how you defeat a Void Mage tile. On the Void turn, this is what it means to activate a Void Mage tile. Same with an enemy. Disarm traps, activate traps, claiming a heal tile, fading tiles, moving through portals. All of the stuff you can do. There are cheat sheet cards for those, as well as there are the different difficulty rules. Also, the rulebook can help you understand how these things all fit together. I think it's a pretty simple game to understand and has a lot of flexibility for increasing the difficulty. I'm always open to feedback via email, via games@scribelife.com, and look forward to hearing from you, and I hope you enjoy the game.